In today's episode, I'm going to share with you the Empaths Guide to Relationships. To be specific, how to love without losing yourself in the process, without abandoning yourself in the process. It is a true paradox. People who are highly empathetic have an incredible gift because they're very sensitive and attuned to the suffering and the energy of others around them. This is a gift, always. And yet many people who are highly empathetic, they struggle. They actually find themselves in unhealthy relationship dynamics. They struggle with setting boundaries. They struggle with being in dynamics where they're open perhaps. Or even they struggle in total toxic dynamics, being in toxic dynamics, or even being in a relationship with a narcissist. How can that be? How can something that is supposed to be an incredible gift? Because interestingly, people who are more awakened, people who are at a higher state of consciousness, they are able to be much more empathetic. Empathy is an incredible gift because it shows that you are able to step beyond self-centeredness and the selfishness of only trying to meet your own needs in this life, but you're able to truly relate, feel into the experience of others. This is an unbelievable gift that has the ability to take your relationships to the deepest depth. Any relationship, friendship, business relationship, specifically your intimate relationship. However, because there are so many misconceptions and myths around this topic, and because no one has really learned how to harness this gift in the most powerful way possible, it actually creates more suffering for most people who are empaths or who are highly empathetic. So in this episode, we're going to go to the core. I'm going to show you why this is the greatest gift you could ever have. And I'm also going to show you how you can free yourself and what you need to do to break free from any unhealthy dynamics, and also how you can prevent them from happening again. My name is Lorin Kren, and I'm an author, coach, and hypnotherapist. I help you to understand masculine and feminine dynamics. Many people who are highly empathetic struggle in relationships, not because they love too much, but because they believe that everyone else loves the same way that they do. There is no such thing as loving too much. Love is infinite. There is always more love to experience. Just as there is always more gratitude, abundance, beauty, wonder, and magic to experience in this life. So, having established that foundation, it's not that empaths love too much. You're here to love boundlessly and infinitely. It's they project onto others naively that they love in the same way that they do. You see, when you are in a conscious relationship and you give without expectation, and you give and give and give selflessly, and you feel into the experience of the other, and you are there and you support them, then what's going to happen? You are going to receive infinitely back. Because being in a conscious relationship means the other person is doing the same. One is not the giver and the other the taker. Both let go of any sense of transactional view of relationships. They have transcended transactional view of relationships, and this is what it means to be in a place of conscious relating. The problem is that when an empath is in a relationship, or any relationship truly, specifically intimate relationship, where they are giving love as if the other person is doing the same. And that's where all the challenges happen. Because the other person might be a taker. The other person might have not yet reached a level of consciousness where they are able to see beyond their own self-centeredness and own selfishness, aka their own ego. All they see, the world is spinning around me, how do I get my needs met? At worst, these are narcissists, people who are controlling, deliberately manipulating, changing narratives only to get their own needs met. It is a truly pathetic and miserable way of living. And it also reveals a very low level of consciousness, almost a very primal level of consciousness. A primal, an animal, and animals are wonderful, divine wonders, but an animal is in a way a slave of their instincts. As incredible divine as my dog is, when I give her food, she becomes unconscious, right? She's like, oh my God, give me that food, right? Bless her beautiful soul. I mean, she really wants the food, and this instinct is just taking over. But you see, we humans, although most humans don't embody this, by the way, but we humans have the gift of being able to see beyond our own kind of primal instincts. But those people who are highly empathetic essentially have reached a level of consciousness where they are able to see beyond their own self-centeredness and trying to just get their selfish needs met in this world. And it's important that you have needs, and it is important that you get your needs met, or you are in places where your needs are being met. But life is more than that. Life is more than just you and your needs. Life is divine. There is so much more. So being highly empathetic means that by nature you are more awakened. You have reached a certain level of consciousness where you have gone beyond your own ego, so to speak. The challenge is when you don't know what to do with this gift and you're not harnessing this level of consciousness in the right way. Because the moment you project this level of consciousness onto others, meaning they are also operating from this place, is the moment where you no longer meet people where they are at. You see, when you believe in a naive worldview that everyone loves in the same way that you do, then you're not meeting people where they are. You are meeting people where you think they should be. And there is a problem with that. Because people who haven't gone beyond their own, only about them, specifically narcissists in this context, they are going to take advantage of you loving them and holding them in a standard as if they were just like you. And so many people struggle with that. They're like, oh, if I open my heart, if I become more conscious, if I awaken more, then everything is just love and I just need to be in my heart and just... But it's not as simple as that. Yes, of course, you want to be in your heart as much as you want to be, but it also means meeting others where they are at. And with certain people, to meet them, you have to protect yourself. You have to have strong boundaries. You have to make sure you're not letting down your guard. And this is what happens to so many empaths. They're letting down their guard. You can still be rooted in your heart, but still be fierce and set boundaries. Empaths often struggle with the discomfort of having to set boundaries, with the discomfort of realizing what might be takers and not givers. Then many empaths have the uncanny ability to put their head in the sand and to hope that things will just resolve themselves if they have more empathy, more compassion, and love deeper. But the opposite happens. It's almost like digging a deeper grave. More pain, more suffering, and people take more advantage of them. A spiritually grounded approach is the realization that not everyone is an empath. Not everyone, and actually most people, have not reached a level of consciousness where they can relate in the way that you are relating to others. So in order to meet people where they're at, you have to be real and truthful with how they are treating you and where they are at. An empath is not just someone who feels deeply. It is someone who is so attuned to other people's emotion, to the energy of others. So let's get really practical here. Let's define the very specific key challenges and limiting beliefs that keep empaths stuck. And then I will get very practical on how you can step into your highest power and actually use and harness your sensitivity, empathy, and compassion for the world and for others in a way that allows you to step more into your power, to reclaim your power, and to create the reality that you truly desire deep down to create. Number 1, the world feels unjust. To people who are highly empathetic, the world feels unjust. There is a realization that there are things happening in this world that are simply not fair. at least from our perspective right now in being in this life. Why do people take advantage of kindness? Why do narcissists or self-centered people manipulate others and get away with it? So there is a sense of focusing heavily on the injustice and unfairness of the world. Where your focus goes, your energy goes. And where your energy goes, everything grows. I just said it a bit differently. This is not my saying. It's a very cliche saying, but it really is true. What you focus on, you will experience more of. So if you constantly focus on the unfairness and injustice in the world, which is a fact, it is unjust or unfair, at least from our current perspective when we look at what's happening in the world. Specifically for those who are suffering from great tragedies in this life. It's truly horrendous what people are going through. And to live in a world where essentially so much suffering is happening, at the same time, if that is where you place your focus, you are not going to be able to fully step into your power. And what can also happen is that you operate from a worldview, others suffer, so why should I be deeply fulfilled, abundant, and experience bliss right now? So just tune in with yourself and check in whether there is some form of limiting belief here that keeps you stuck. You are here to experience the highest love and highest abundance. Be there for others, support others, but you can't pour from an empty cup. By you limiting yourself, you are not supporting anyone. By you stepping into a reality of the highest love and abundance, that's when you can truly support and make a change in the collective suffering of the world. Number 2, many empaths give without limits. Without limits meaning there are no boundaries. Many people who are highly empathetic and compassionate, they pour endlessly their love, their soul, their heart into relationships, assuming that the more they give, the more the other person will meet them in the same way. But as described as before, with the right person, the more you give, the more you get. With the wrong person, the more you give, the more you will be drained, and the more they zap and take and drain your energy. When you feel deeply drained from certain encounters, then it very often is a sign that you are giving your heart and soul and pouring it into a container where there is no reciprocity. Instead, you are being zapped. It's almost like a virus on a computer that is zapping the energy, the power of the machine ultimately. And here the same thing is going on with your energy. It's like when you're an empath, but then you're with someone who is a taker, who is very self-centered, or who is still stuck at a certain level of consciousness where they cannot relate in a truly conscious and selfless way, then essentially your energy is going to be zapped. You're going to feel disconnected from yourself. You're not going to feel in your true power. The idea that empaths are much more drained by everyday life and the world is flawed. Empaths are drained by the wrong people and energized by the right people. What this means is, as an empath, you are more sensitive and attuned to the energy of others. And that means you are going to experience it much more powerfully when you are in the presence of someone's energy that is not in alignment, someone who is a taker, someone who has a dark presence that they bring, someone who has a lot of trauma, who has a lot of wounding. That's going to feel much more draining to you. It's not that you are being drained more. It is that you are more attuned and sensitive and aware of how you are being drained. Other people are simply more numbed out to that experience. Disconnect, things are not in alignment, they don't feel it as strongly because they are numbed out to that experience. They're not attuned. You are attuned, and that is a gift. It's a gift because it means that you have the ability to treat it for what it is. Guidance, higher guidance communicating with you. Not that you have to leave, break up or whatever. but that something might need to change in your approach in that relationship. And if nothing changes and you try everything, then to let go in love, to release the energetic ties. Another challenge that empaths experience is that they often feel like an outsider. Because you see, example, you're in a group dynamic and you start to notice that someone enters the group dynamic who has a really dark presence to them that's actually in a way completely disturbing the group dynamic, and you can feel that. But as an empath, what is obvious to you is often oblivious to others. You feel it so deeply, and when you make people aware of it, they might say, well, you're overreacting and it's not a big deal, and you just, and you feel deeply misunderstood. You feel deeply unseen by others, and you feel like the outsider, but quite in fact, you are seeing what is really happening. And that can then push you out of situations where you might lose good friends or relationships or experiences where you have to let go of things that are very, very dear to you, simply because no one really saw what you saw and what was so obvious to you. It's not that people don't see you, that you are weird or awkward. It's that you see the obvious, which is oblivious to others, because they haven't reached this level of consciousness yet. And this is another reason why people who awaken often feel like outsiders. You feel like an outsider because you are awakening from the realization that is perceived as normal is actually a state of deep unconsciousness and deep dysfunction. In fact, you are not an outsider. You are actually returning to your natural state of being. But if not that many people do that, then it will feel like being an outsider and being unseen and being misunderstood. And the last challenge here, before I go in depth into how you can reclaim your power as an empath, is losing yourself in relationships. That's the challenge I mentioned at the beginning. It's that self-abandonment without realizing it, getting lost in the suffering of others and being, again, when we enter the realms of being too empathetic, too compassionate, what it really is actually you disconnecting from the gift of your empathy and trying to avoid the discomfort of having to set strong boundaries or potentially having to let go. Because here again, as an empath, you feel so deeply, so setting boundaries means you will feel deeply the pain and the disappointment or whatever trigger the other person is experiencing when you set that boundary. When you are being too empathetic, you're stepping out of empathy. You're stepping out of your power. And what is called as too empathetic is actually you trying to avoid discomfort. So enough about the challenges and about the illusions and misconceptions. Let's talk about how you can step into your highest power as an empath. Number one, your sensitivity is your superpower. Your sensitivity is your attunement to energy. Your attunement to energy is your attunement to the world of spirit. There is so much deep wisdom in that. The issue that many empaths experience is that they believe they have to become more detached or they have to harden. But you don't have to harden, because hardening yourself is numbing out. You don't have to become like others who are numbed out. Instead, you need to refine your sensitivity. Being highly sensitive is fantastic, but it needs to be refined. How do you refine it? Not by becoming cold or detached. You refine it by harnessing your sensitivity to create true alignment in your life. Rather than going against it and being stuck in overgiving and having or in your compassion extending to a degree where you're trying to avoid discomfort, you focus on how can I listen to this message of when I feel drained in this group, when I feel drained around this person, and how can I use this to create true alignment in my life. Rather than being stuck in it, rather than seeing it as a weakness, allow it to move you into conscious action where conscious action is necessary. What this essentially means is that discernment is the key. Give to those endlessly and boundlessly who can meet you in your depth, but stop giving your heart and pouring your soul into places, people, or whatever it is where there is no reciprocity, where there is no balanced exchange of energy. Give yourself permission right now to remove your energy from these people and places. Many empaths believe that makes them a cold-hearted arsehole, but that is the opposite. You are actually becoming a person who steps even more into love because you're taking care of yourself and you're stepping into your highest power. And only when you are rooted in your highest power can you actually be truly there for others. Give yourself permission to walk away if you have to. Being more empathetic is not always the answer, as we have established today. Sometimes the choice is letting go. Specifically when you start to move from being stuck with your power to reclaiming your power as an empath. As an empath, it is extremely important, specifically in your intimate life, to be with a person who understands the principle of true conscious relating. While you both have needs, while you both, of course, want your needs met, and that is very important and necessary, both of you ideally need to be in a place where you are giving selflessly without expecting in return. Expecting in return, specifically talking about viewing relationships as a transactional thing. I give you this, so I get this back. But instead you are both givers. And then no one is an overgiver because both of you are giving and pouring and pouring and pouring. And it's so mutual. It's so reciprocal. And it's such a wonderful, divine and healing energy that you experience. It creates so much safety and trust at the most fundamental level inside your being. This is what I personally experience. I'm an empath, or I'm highly empathetic. My wife is highly empathetic. And both of us ask ourselves, and this is the key thing I want you to write down, how can I love more? How can I give more? How can we experience more joy? How can we understand one another deeper? How can we feel each other deeper? But again, this only works, this practice, in the right and in a safe relationship container. I applied this to dynamics that weren't conscious, and it caused a lot of pain in my life. The same happened for my wife. And now, since we have found each other, we are able to love in the way we have always yearned to love. But make no mistake, my wife and I, we learned our lesson. We don't extend this kind of worldview beyond our sanctuary, only to those friends who truly have the same level of love and the same level of empathy. But one needs to be very, very mindful of naively believing that others feel, think, and embody the same level of energy and consciousness. Think about it. All the mystics, all the healers and spiritual leaders who are truly rooted in their heart and who are truly coming from a genuine place, they all once faced the challenge of their own sensitivity. They felt so deeply, but they learned to harness it, to fine-tune it, and to turn it into something greater. Being insensitive means being disconnected from the world of spirit and from yourself, from the great source ultimately. Being sensitive is being sensible. It means being in your power. but you have to use it wisely by taking aligned action, walking away where you need to walk away, meeting people where they at their level of consciousness, rather than thinking everyone acts in the same way and embodies the same level of consciousness that you do. And just to make that clear, when I speak of higher and lower consciousness, this is not about better or worse. If there is any sense of I am better because I'm more conscious, that is all our own ego and shadow. Empathy brings with it a great sense of humbleness, because it is the polar opposite of, oh, I'm so conscious, I'm so empathetic. That is bullshit. And I believe some people, they like the label of an empath, but their empathy is still in a way self-centered rather than truly genuine. Your deep feeling is your inner guidance, the voice or the whisper of your soul. Listen to it, take action upon it, and the right path and people will start to align in your life. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to turn something that might have caused a lot of pain into your life into one of your greatest blessings. Because in truth, it is one of your greatest blessings. Thank you for listening to this episode. I am so honored and grateful to guide you on your journey. It means the world to me. There's so many people, I think over 8 or 9 billion people in this world. And you have landed here and you've watched the entire video. I feel so honored that you've given me the incredible gift of your time. Because your time is the most valuable asset. Time is something that cannot be given back, and that you've given me these 20-30 minutes of your time, it means the world to me. I'm so honored to be part of your life. If you want to benefit from more free offerings, I invite you to check out my free newsletter, lorinkren.com/newsletter, or click on the show notes or episode description, or my free ebooks, lorinkren.com/books, or click on the episode description or the show notes. And if you want to support the show, which allows us to support you at the highest level and continue providing these episodes entirely for free, value-packed, entirely for free, bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, solo episodes as this one, or deep dive interviews with experts or great leaders in the field, then if you rate the show 5 stars, wherever you are listening, or give a thumbs up if you're watching this on YouTube, this helps us a lot. Now, if you share it with someone, share it on your social medias, or share it with someone who you think can benefit from it, or leave a little review or a little comment, this goes even further. These are all little ways how you can support us that go a long way. Once again, thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored to be of service.